What is up, my friends? Let's talk some baseball. We got the ALCS and the NLCS all about to kick off. Today we get game one of the ALCS, Seattle Mariners against the Toronto Blue Jays. How we all doing today? Let's look at chat. We got Baker Hughes. National League against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Let's see. Did the stream looks black? How does it look on y'all's end? Just lost it. All right, we should be good to go now. Everybody in here? Everybody see me? Do I sound good? We got the mic rolling. I think we should be in good shape. Jockhead pumped. Carla's got the Dodgers. Aqua play brawl. Yeah, frozen. Dodgers and Jays for the World Series. We're locked and loaded now to preview these matchups. Tonight at 8:03 p.m. Eastern Time will be Game 1, the Toronto Blue Jays against the Seattle Mariners in Toronto. If you didn't see how that game ended up the other night in Seattle with the Tigers and Mariners, it was absolute chaos. 15 innings. It was nuts. And the best part of all was, obviously the game was incredible, but the Toronto Blue Jays posting on social media, just them watching the fight and the back and forth was awesome. I don't know if you saw that. But what we're going to do today is talk through each of these matchups, the Blue Jays and Mariners, which game one starts tonight, and then both CS matchups play tomorrow. So we're going to preview the NLCS second and the ALCS tonight, since that is coming up first. Blue Jays, Mariners is our first matchup. Let me switch on over to this other scene. You should be able to see me and hear me and all that good stuff over here. Let me move this. Oh, boom. Okay. All right. The field is set. All four teams are here. And what I want to talk through today is kind of the strength and weaknesses of each team and how I think each team can win. Look, on the American League side of things, this series is simple. You're getting juggernaut pitching in the Seattle Mariners, one of the best rotations in baseball. Since the beginning of September, they've been fantastic against the Toronto Blue Jays, who are a fantastic offense. I think this series is going to be awesome. Just absolute studs on a pitching staff against absolute studs on the offensive side with the Toronto Blue Jays. So I want to go through each of these, the matchups for each, how each team I think can win the world, how they can each win the series. Let's start here with the Seattle Mariners offense. Obviously led by Cal Raleigh, who we see right here. The offense is a weakness right now of the Seattle Mariners. When I look at this team, I watch the DS against the Detroit Tigers. The Seattle Mariners offense is what's going to have to step up here in this series. I think they could easily get outmatched by the Toronto Blue Jays in this series if their offense doesn't step up and perform a little better than it did in the DS against Detroit. Their weakness is their offense, but their strength is their pitching staff. The Seattle Mariners absolutely can win this series. I have the Seattle Mariners advancing to the World Series out of the American League side of things. I think I'm going to stick with that because it was my original pick, and I'm just going to stick with that. But this is a battle of the most dominant pitching in the playoffs, I think, against the hottest offense in baseball. The Toronto Blue Jays offense has been absolutely incredible since the beginning of May. Since May 1st, no team in baseball has more runs scored since May 1st than the Toronto Blue Jays. And throughout the entirety of these playoffs, they've been fantastic. They're hitting .338 as an offense, slugging .601 as an offense, and they have a team WRC plus of 168. If you're not super familiar with WRC plus, that is essentially 100. The number 100 is average. So 168 as a team is remarkable. That's basically like Shohei Ohtani's regular season WRC plus is what the team of the Toronto Blue Jays is putting up right now. No other team in the playoffs has higher than a 111 WRC plus, and the Toronto Blue Jays are sitting at 168. Look, if the Blue Jays offense keeps rolling the way it is, I just don't know how you slow them down. The momentum for them has been extraordinary, and I don't know if it's possible to slow them. Look, when you're hot, you're hot. And right now, the Toronto Blue Jays offense can't be stopped. This is the best pitching staff they are going to face in the playoffs so far in the Seattle Mariners, who, because they just played in 15 games, what are they going to do on the pitching side of things? They're going to go Bryce Miller in game 1 here tonight. Brian Wu is back on the playoff roster, which is going to be huge for them. But in that game the other night, they used Logan Gilbert. They used Luis Castillo. They used basically every pitcher on their roster besides Bryce Miller was used in that 15-inning game. Hi, Ben. In the DS preview, you disputed my claim of Jay's great depth. 7 players ended up with 4 or more hits. Look, there's no way around. I would say I was wrong in the DS when it comes to this Toronto Blue Jays team. I think you look at this team and this roster, and what I did say is I liked the depth in the Yankees lineup more. And I think the Blue Jays came out with guys like Ernie Clement and Barger and Dalton Varsho and just showed that they were the better baseball team in every single facet. And I sat back and I thought, where are the Blue Jays the better team? And I think against the New York Yankees, they were the better team in every single facet of the game. I really do believe that. I talk to John Smoltz on my show every single week, and Smoltz said they just made them look like they weren't on the same playing field. They looked like they weren't even in the same league as the Toronto Blue Jays, and I totally agree with that. So let's see if we got any questions in here. Blue Jays, Brewers. Look, when it comes to this series, before we get into what the team's strengths and what their weaknesses are, this matchup, Mariners Blue Jays, is really cool for multiple reasons. One, the Seattle Mariners have never been to the World Series. Never. Not once in their franchise have they been to the World Series. The Toronto Blue Jays haven't been there since 1993. So on the American League side, we're going to get somebody in the World Series that hasn't been there in a long, long time, or if the Mariners win, they have never been there. So the story there is awesome. Next, you think of how close Seattle is to Canada, and there's a lot of, even though it's 2 time zones away, there are a lot of Blue Jays fans that live pretty close to Seattle, just because of the proximity to Canada. So it's always a fun series when they play in the regular season. Blue Jays fans always show up in Seattle. I've already seen on social media fans saying, "Don't sell your tickets to Blue Jays fans if you're in Seattle." So there's a lot of good storylines here already, aside from the fact that these 2 teams are absolutely fantastic and absolutely deserving of being here in the ALCS. Nathan says, "Go Jays, baby. I sure hope they pitch to Vladdy." Look, with the Jays offense the way it is and the guys around him right now, you kind of have to. And Vladdy Jr. is the guy in this lineup that you do not let beat you, right? But there's certain times where you just can't pitch around them. And if they're going to have guys in this offense that have continually been hot, you're not just going to pitch around Vladdy to get to guys behind him that aren't the same player, but that are equally as hot. I mean, look, Vladdy stepped up in the biggest moment. What a turnaround for this Blue Jays team. In spring training, the thought process was, okay, Vladdy Jr., his extension deadline, he said, has come and gone. He's going to be gone. At the end of the year, he's going to be a free agent. We're probably going to end up trading him before the trade deadline because he didn't get extended. And you had all these issues with Vladdy and this team, and you look back now and you just kind of laugh and say, okay, well, the extension ended up getting done not long after that, and Vladdy Jr. is an absolute stud and leading this team to their first World Series since before Vladdy was born. The majority of this Blue Jays roster was not alive the last time that they were in the World Series. Who's out for the postseason? Is Bichette playing? So it was looking like Bo Bichette was going to be on the ALCS roster, but he in fact is not going to be. So Bo will not be on the roster. You touched on it, but how does the 15-inning marathon plus an extra game affect the Mariners bench and bullpen? Are they going to be completely gassed? I think it's a great question. And yes, a lot of guys. Look, when it comes to your position players, no. Position players are going to be fine besides Cal Raleigh. Cal Raleigh caught 15 innings behind the plate. That's absurd. His legs were toast after that game, and he has not yet fully recovered. So, look, I think it makes a big difference for Cal, and I think it makes a big difference for the starting rotation, having to pitch all of those guys. I know Logan Gilbert came in on what would be his side session day, right? So he had already started in the series. He would have been throwing a bullpen that day regardless, but it is not remotely close to the same. Throwing a 20, 30 pitch bullpen before the game is not the same as throwing multiple innings in the playoffs, over 30 pitches, high stress. So my big concern, and especially in game one, because that's where you can see it, like they're starting Bryce Miller, and they wish they could have gone to probably Logan Gilbert or somebody else. My big concern comes in game one, and I think these starters throughout the series, we're going to have to see how these guys, every game that is started by Logan Gilbert and Luis Castillo, I'm interested to watch if they're going to be able to go as deep or if they're as sharp as they normally would be because they had to pitch in that 15-inning marathon. So the Blue Jays were just sitting back, already through. They know they're going to be at home. It was the perfect case scenario for the Blue Jays. That's why I think the biggest advantage in any of these games in this series will come in game one because of what the Mariners have just gone through to get to this point. Do you think the Mariners can keep up with the Blue Jays hitting? Yes, because of how good their pitching is. This is the two teams believe in their strength more than the other team believes in their strength, right? The Seattle Mariners will take their starting rotation up against anybody in the league. The Toronto Blue Jays will take their offense up against any rotation in the league. So we're getting this like heavyweight fight between the best pitching against the best hitting right now. And that's what's so interesting about this series to me. So let's go through each team's strength, each team's weakness, and how each team can win this series. The Mariners' strength is easy. Both of these teams' strength, it's obvious. The Mariners' strength is their starting pitchers, and the Blue Jays' strength is their offense as a whole. Again, most runs scored in all of baseball since May 1st, and they have a 168 WRC plus in the postseason compared to the second best that's sitting at 111. The weaknesses is where this series starts getting interesting, of which team can exploit the other team's weakness. And the Mariners' weakness, I think, is their offense. Now, Detroit can pitch, right? Detroit can pitch, but the Mariners struggle to score runs. And I love what they did at the trade deadline, acquiring Suarez and acquiring Josh Naylor. If they didn't do that, I don't think they'd be here. I don't think their offense, and I've said this for years, with the pitching staff the Seattle Mariners have, if they had any sort of offense at all, they're a real threat in the American League. Well, they went out and got any sort of offense at all. Is it an elite offense? I would say no. Aside from Cal Raleigh, who is in the MVP discussion, and we can have that discussion if you want. I'm always interested to hear what you guys think. So just hit me in the chat. I'll go look at the chat in a second. Hit me with a Cal or Judge AL MVP. But you have Cal Raleigh, who's an AL MVP candidate, and obviously the 60 homers. And then you have Julio, who's playing like an MVP in the second half of the year. Josh Naylor's great. But like the depth in that lineup gets a little concerning. Whereas the Blue Jays offense just since May has been fantastic. So the Mariners' weakness is their offense. The Blue Jays' weakness is their bullpen. So if the Mariners are able to get to, and look, another big part of this series is going to be Trey Savage. If Trey Savage is, and look, you don't need him to be as good as he was in his first postseason start, but you need him to be like a guy. You need to rely on him for 2 starts. And we're talking about a guy that's pitched 4 times in the big leagues. You're counting on him to be a guy to advance you to the World Series. That's a tall ask. But the bullpen is an issue for this Toronto Blue Jays team. Even the back end, with Jeff Hoffman back there, I wouldn't exactly say it's been a smooth ride at the back end of the bullpen. So Blue Jays bullpen is an issue. So we'll see if that Mariners offense is able to get there. This series, I think this goes the distance. I really could see this series going 7 games. I really could. The Mariners win this series if the starting pitching stays as hot as it has been. Their starting pitching ERA is a 2.16 ERA in the ALDS. Their starters were lights out. And I get the Tigers' offense isn't exactly the biggest strength in the world. Their offense can struggle. But the Mariners pitching is firing on all cylinders right now. Since the beginning of September, and look, if you were to ask me at the beginning of the year, the Mariners win the division, the Mariners win the AL West, how'd they do it? I would have said all year long their pitching was fantastic. But that wasn't exactly the case. They weren't exactly dealing with the rotation that they normally deal with throughout the course of the season. They struggled a bit at times, and they dealt with injuries, which they haven't at times. But come September, they started kicking it into high gear. Luis Castillo's best start of the season was his final start. George Kirby has been good in the playoffs. So this rotation that is the Mariners' strength is feeling like they're firing on all cylinders right now. So the Mariners will win the ALCS if the pitchers stay as hot as they have been. Look, good pitching beats good offense. It just does. Now, when we're talking about an offense that's firing on all cylinders at the same time, we're talking about like 2 immovable objects right now, and that's why this series is so awesome. The Mariners pitching against the Toronto Blue Jays offense. Cal on top of the bat has catching elite. So Cal, Judge for president, but what about MVP? Judge for stats, Cal for the story. Judge, I got Cal. Mariners have threats offensively. Sure. I mean, I look at the Mariners offense, especially in the ALDS. Look, I don't think their offense is their strength. But I look at, like, they have J.P. Crawford batting in the 9 hole. Right? J.P. Crawford would have been put smack dab in the middle of the Detroit Tigers offense. Like, they don't have a bad offense. It's just, I think, the weakness of their team. I love the back end of the bullpen with Munoz, who, by the way, threw like 90% sliders in the ALDS, which was wild to see. Naylor was a huge pickup. Absolutely enormous pickup. Josh Naylor for them. All right. On the other side of things, the Blue Jays will win if they maintain their offensive surge against the best pitching yet. So something's got to move here. Right? You have a pitching staff that's been fantastic since the beginning of September and a 2.19 ERA in the playoffs. And you have an offense that's been the best in baseball since the beginning of May and by far the best in October. Something has to change. Will this Blue Jays offense keep it rolling against the best pitching yet? Or will the best pitching that the Blue Jays have seen been able to silence that offense a little bit? And maybe then you can get, if the offense can step up, you can get into that bullpen with the Blue Jays, and that's how they get in trouble. But the Blue Jays just have some firepower right now. This series is going to be awesome. Since 1993, the Blue Jays haven't been to the World Series. And again, I think this is so cool. 2 of the final 4 teams have not won a World Series in the Seattle Mariners and the Milwaukee Brewers, which we'll talk about that series in a few minutes. So, I'm really excited for this one. This starts at 8:03 p.m. Eastern time tonight. I did want to go through some of the statistics for each of these teams as well, because I was looking at the postseason stats compared to the regular season stats. These are postseason offensive numbers that we see so far, with the Toronto Blue Jays sitting at the top of team batting average. Look at this. Look how crazy this is. The Toronto Blue Jays team batting average in October is 338. The next closest is the Dodgers at 259. Right now, it's not even close. For a while, until the final game of the DS, the Toronto Blue Jays had more home runs as a team than strikeouts. So you look at the Toronto Blue Jays with by far the best offense in the postseason so far, and down here, the Seattle Mariners, who are the lowest of the remaining teams, a 207 team batting average in October so far. Team OPS, the Toronto Blue Jays are by far at 974, and the Seattle Mariners sitting at 634. But if you go look at the pitching side of things, and I know it can be cliche to say, great pitching against great offense. If the pitching falters, the offense will win. But like this, I can't remember an ALCS in a while where it's been this stark of a contrast. This is literally best pitching against best offense. On the pitching side of things, the Seattle Mariners with a team ERA of 3.29. The starters have been even better than that. And then the Toronto Blue Jays with a 4.37 team ERA. So this is going to be 338. Somebody check the 1993 squad's postseason batting average, especially when they had. That was a fun team to watch for sure. That home run strikeout stat is wild. Yeah, right. I mean, it changed in that final game, but through like 2.5 games, more home runs than strikeouts as a team, which is absolutely insane. How do you think Max will factor in this series? I think Max is going to have to factor in a 7-game series, right? And the way the first series went for them, they were able to slide around using some of that pitching depth. And Max Scherzer, Chris Bassett didn't really factor in. They're going to have to in a 7-game series, unless, look, I just don't think I don't think the Blue Jays team pitching, especially out of the bullpen, is good enough to have multiple bullpen games. They just don't. Their bullpen isn't a strength. So are you going to turn to a Max Scherzer in a playoff game? Are you going to turn to a Chris Bassett? I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. But Kevin Gausman is going to be the guy. Kevin Gausman is going in game 1. I believe it's going to be Gausman against Bryce Miller. It is, but has it been officially announced? Okay, so we are getting Bryce Miller against Kevin Gausman, sitting there with a 1.59 in the postseason. He's fantastic. He's a stud. We know that. This game is a big advantage for the Toronto Blue Jays. I want to go look at the Blue Jays bullpen numbers. Let's go look at stats. We're going to go to pitching, and then we're going to go regular season. So if you look at these numbers, obviously Kevin Gausman's your guy. But when you start looking at bullpen numbers, where do you turn to? Starting pitching depth is not this team's strength, right? Shane Bieber wasn't exactly good in the playoffs so far. So Jeff Hoffman, you're like the guy you want to be your shutdown back-end guy, with a 4.37 ERA on the year. Max Scherzer with a 5.19. Yariel Rodriguez is going to have to step up and be good for them. Luis Varland played a key role early in the postseason. The Judge hit that homer off of him, around a 5 ERA. Sir Anthony Dominguez, they just have... I just don't think they have the arms in the bullpen to go with a bullpen game. So then you start looking at these starters. You're going to go Kevin Gausman. You're going to go Trey Savage, who didn't have enough innings to even show up here. There he is down here. He's 1-0 with a 3.21 ERA, but we saw what he did in October. Chris Bassett, a 4 ERA. Jose Barrios, a 4.17. These aren't bad, but you're going to have to rely on these guys in the series. The pitching advantage is such a huge strength for the Seattle Mariners in this series. If the reason that there should be any hesitancy is because of the way that the 15-inning game went. The Mariners' advantage really took a hit there with that game going 15 innings. So it really levels the playing field. Then you think this is the 1 seed. The Mariners will have home field advantage. They're well rested. You have to give them a big advantage for that. But Max Scherzer's going to have to play. I think he's going to have to play a role in this series. What does that role look like? Because I think starting pitching wise, you can go Gausman, you can go Yasavage, and then maybe Bieber. And then I don't think you go bullpen game. So I think you either go Scherzer, Barrios, or Bassett. And I think that answer is going to be Barrios. But I don't know what you do with Max in this postseason series. Sorry, that was a roundabout way to answer the question. But I don't think Max is going to play a huge role in this series. I think he's struggled down the stretch. And I'm going to be interested in how they decide to use them. Great minds think alike. I don't know what part you're talking about, but I totally agree with you. You're a step ahead of me. Greetings from PA. Hello, Don. How are you? Max is maxed out. Face it, Cal is MVP. Sure, but Jays paired him off with Lauer as a tag team, and it worked out against the Mariners, no less. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. That home run strikeout stat. All right, we are caught up with the chat. Doesn't Cal usually kill the Blue Jays? Yes. Cal killed everybody this year, but Cal is a Blue Jays killer. Absolutely. Mad Max out of the pen. Look, I think Max is a little crazy, right? Like that's what drives him. I think seeing Max out of the bullpen in this series would be a lot of fun. You don't need him to step up for 4 or 5 innings. Have him come in out of the pen for an inning, giving it his all, going crazy, and no, Brewers is not on the roster. Okay, good to know. I think Scherzer still has a couple legendary performances left on him. Let's look up the Blue Jays. We're going to look up the Blue Jays playoff roster and go through that. Oh, that's their game one. Their lineup just dropped. Let's see what we got here. George Springer leading off, DHing Nathan Lukes, right field. Vladdy Jr., Addison Barger, Kirk, Varsho, Clement, Santander, and Jimenez. Really big blow still that Bo Bichette isn't healthy and ready. Barrios is still in the IL, most likely. Bassett start, Scherzer longman. Yeah, they might do a piggyback situation there with Kevin Gausman on the mound here in game 1. I'm sure they've dropped the roster somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, so many photos. Look at the social media team. Here we go. All right, here's the ALCS roster. Chris Bassett on the roster. These are starting pitchers on the roster. Chris Bassett, Shane Bieber, Kevin Gausman, Trey Yasavage. Max Scherzer is on there. He's going to have to be out of a relief role, is my guess. Lucas. Barger, Clement. It's a shocker to me that Bo Bichette. I thought he was going to be ready for this. I guess he had a little bit of a setback. But all right, that is the gist of this series. The juggernaut offense of the Toronto Blue Jays against the juggernaut pitching of the Seattle Mariners. I do have the Mariners advancing to the World Series on the American League side of things. I'm going to stick with it. I tend to lean pitching in October over offense. But right now what we're getting is great pitching against hot offense. If the Blue Jays stay hot, there will be no beating them. But I'm going to stick with the pitching of the Seattle Mariners. Again, in these series, just winning one of the first 2 on the road is so huge. Bo struggled in the workout yesterday. Yeah, I had a feeling. So I'm going to stick with the Mariners. I'm going to take the Mariners. I think this series goes 7 games. I really do. I think this goes 7. Give me the Seattle Mariners in 7 to advance to the first ever World Series in franchise history. Let's move on and talk about the other series. The Los Angeles Dodgers against the Milwaukee Brewers. The starters have not yet been announced, but this series is going to be a lot of fun to watch for multiple different reasons. But the star power, this series in essence, is this series in essence, Brewers-Dodgers. Let me hear who you guys got. Brewers-Dodgers is a matchup of what seemingly is David versus Goliath, right? That's what this is being dubbed. David versus Goliath. But is it? But should it be? Is the question. The Milwaukee Brewers are the 1 seed. The Milwaukee Brewers have home field advantage. The Milwaukee Brewers went 6-0 against the Los Angeles Dodgers this year. So should this be this David versus Goliath matchup when 6-0 against the Dodgers this year? But if I were to explain something there, all 6 of those games came within a few weeks stretch, and Ohtani wasn't pitching, Snell was out, Mookie was in a career worst slump. So I don't exactly look at the 6-0 against the Dodgers this year and hold any weight to that. I don't think that matters whatsoever. 1, because it's October. It doesn't matter. The regular season doesn't matter at all. But 2, the Dodgers weren't at full strength at all when they were playing them at that time. So these two have played each other. Another interesting note here when it comes to these two teams is that the NLCS matchup, Dodgers-Brewers, is the 7th postseason series between two teams where one swept the season series. The 7th matchup ever in the postseason where one of the teams swept this season series. Now, what's even more interesting about that is that the team that got swept won 4 of the 6 postseason series. So the Dodgers got swept in the regular season. Will they win this postseason series? But it's just interesting. This will be the 7th. 6 postseason series where the team swept the other in the regular season. But 4 of those 6, the team that got swept won the playoff series. Do we think that's how this shapes up? We will see. Dodgers in 5, they won the series, so this is now that they're healthy. Yes, 100%. I got a gut feeling it will be Jays-Dodgers this year. Dodgers starting pitching is too good to lose in this series. Look, there's a real conversation. Let's go look at the team pitching. Postseason, team pitching, ERA, Los Angeles Dodgers, 3.38. Look at these ERAs. The Dodgers are 9th with a 3.38 ERA. That is absolutely insane. A 3.38 ERA is great. There's a real possibility that this Los Angeles Dodgers rotation is the best rotation that we have ever seen at this point in a season. Right? Like, the first round, the first we've seen the Dodgers in the playoffs, it was, okay, they went Snell and then they went Yamamoto. And then they had to turn to, they sweep the Reds. So then the big weakness of having to play in the wild card round is what it does to your starting pitching. And it still felt like when they started the series against the Philadelphia Phillies, it felt like they didn't miss a beat. It still felt like they had too many pitchers. Okay, we're going to go to Shohei Ohtani in Game 1 of the NLDS against the Phillies. And I know everybody's been talking about how bad our bullpen is. We're just going to turn to Tyler Glasnow out of the bullpen. Think of that. The whole conversation was if the Phillies can get into the Dodgers bullpen, that's going to be it. The bullpen will not be able to hold up. Well, in Game 1, they came out and they said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go Shohei Ohtani to Tyler Glasnow, who's going to hand it off to Roki Sasaki, who's maybe been the most dominant pitcher in the playoffs. That is insane. Even better than Glavine, Maddox, and Smoltz. Okay, great point. But the rotation as a whole, like adding in an extra layer of whoever the extra starter may be, Tyler Glasnow or Show. I think Yamamoto's their ace. And then just the depth you can, like with Snell, Ohtani, Glasnow. It's like these are all aces of staffs. And I do agree with you, Smoltz, Glavine, and Maddox are all aces of staff. But I would put it arguably up there with them in the depth. You don't need 5 starters in the playoffs. You don't need 5 starters in a 7-game series. You need 4. And this is where the Dodgers are going to have a huge advantage in this series is you're throwing out 4. No matter the game, you're going to start an ace on the mound. Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling was awesome. Brewers sputtered towards the end of the season, revision to the mean on all players' stats. I mean, when it comes to the Brewers, let's talk through the strengths and weaknesses of these teams. The Dodgers' strength, look, it's only fair to give them multiple. The Dodgers' strength is their starting rotation and then their 3 MVPs, right? I mean, you can't just say starting rotation and omit that they have 3 MVPs at the top of the lineup. The Brewers' strength is their pitching as a whole. 3.35 team ERA in the playoffs so far. Let's go over to the hitting. We'll stick with OPS. Brewers have the second highest OPS in all of October right now. Dodgers at third, right behind them. These two teams, but the pitching the Dodgers had to face so far with the Philadelphia Phillies was fantastic. What Christopher Sanchez did to Shohei Ohtani in the NLDS round was crazy to watch. Shohei really struggled. Shohei's going to have to step up. Look, Shohei's the best player in baseball. They need him to step up here. He was 1 for 18 with 8 strikeouts, I believe, in the DS and the NLDS. That can't happen. He's got to step up. The weaknesses. The Brewers' weakness, and the reason I wanted to get to this is because somebody in the chat talked about a regression to the mean a little bit with the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers, even though pitching as a whole is their strength, inexperience in the rotation, I think, is their weakness. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they can't step up, right? Like, look at how we speak about Trey Savage right now. Had he not had that first start in October, we'd say their rotation struggles. Trey Savage, how's he going to do in October? I don't think we have any concerns about that anymore. The inexperience of the Milwaukee Brewers, in many ways, they haven't gotten to the World Series. The inexperience in the rotation with Mizorowski and with Quinn Priester. And Roki we trust. Seriously, that guy is an absolute stud. Roki's face turn as a shutdown closer is a development I didn't see coming. Roki Sasaki, let's go look at some of the Dodgers numbers. Roki Sasaki's numbers in the postseason. We'll go over to pitching. Where is he? Roki Sasaki. 4 games, a 0 ERA, 2 saves, 5 1/3 innings pitched, only 1 hit. Roki has given up 1 hit so far in October compared to 5 strikeouts. 5 strikeouts and 5 1/3. And the big number for me with Roki is right here. 0 walks. 5 strikeouts to 0 walks. His big issue, and I have John Smoltz on my show every single week. We've talked a good bit about Roki Sasaki just from what happened early in the year and where he is now. And I think John's kind of the perfect guy to talk to him about because he was a dominant starting pitcher and then he switched over to the bullpen and was a dominant back into the bullpen closer. So I talked to him about Roki and basically how this has happened. And he said, I don't think he was ready. I don't think he was ready at the beginning of the year. I think physically he wasn't ready, and I think mentally he wasn't quite there yet either. And he speaks so highly of Roki Sasaki, and he always has, and he never wavered from that when Roki came up, and everybody loved pointing at the video of him in the dugout when he was emotional after a bad outing and said, this guy's not going to cut it in the big leagues. Well, the transition from April, when we all saw that shot of Roki sitting in the dugout and being visibly upset, to October, when he's closing a game, closing out a playoff series against the Cincinnati Reds on the mound with Dodger Stadium chanting his name over and over and over. The 180 has been insane. So a 0.19 whip in 4 games, 9 up, 9 down against the Dodgers to win that series and Game 4 the other day. Just dominant performance. You look at some of these other numbers. Blake Snell's been great. Look at these starting pitcher ERAs. Blake Snell, Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow hasn't given up a run yet in October, and they don't even know how to use them. They don't know how to use Tyler Glasnow. Right now it gets easier. It's easier to manage this Dodgers team in a 7-game series than in a 5-game series. Dave Roberts has done a fantastic job so far. I talked about it earlier. This team is the opposite of what they were last year. Last year is just, I don't know what we're going to do in the starting pitching. Let's just get to the bullpen. And this year it's the opposite. And he's managed, it's not easy to manage that. And he's done a fantastic job. They didn't know how to use Tyler Glasnow. And he doesn't have a single run given up in October. He's got a 0 ERA and 7 2/3 innings. 10 punch outs as well. Dave just needs to be smart. Absolutely. Let's go look at the Brewers. Let's talk about the Brewers as well, because when it comes to the series, Dodgers' strength, as I said, starting pitching and 3 MVPs. Brewers' strength is their pitching, but their weakness is the inexperience in the rotation. The Dodgers' weakness is that bullpen. And I don't think in a 7-game series now, you have the leverage of being able to turn to a Tyler Glasnow out of the bullpen. You're going to have somebody step up. Blake Trinan has not been good. He's got a 7.71 ERA. Emmett Sheehan, you kind of need him as well. He has not been good. He's been walking a bunch of guys, 2 walks in 3 1/3 inning. That is not good. Alex Vesia's given up a few runs. Rocky's been great. Rocky's the one and only guy right now. The one and only guy at the back end of the bullpen that you can trust. So you need length out of your starting pitching. If the Dodgers don't get length out of their starting pitching in a 7-game series, they're going to struggle, because where do they turn to? Blake Trinan is so done. So Trinan's been it's been tough for him. He's having a tough go of it. Tyler Glasnow has a Porsche. They have Ferraris and Lambos too. Absolutely. Before we move on to the Brewers, we're going to talk about, let's look at the hitting of the Dodgers so far in October. We'll go OPS. Teoscar Hernandez killing it. Multiple go-ahead homers. Huge clutch homers. Need starters to go 7. Totally agree with that, Don. Mookie Betts has been really good. What a storyline this has been. Mookie Betts, worst year of his career, I have to imagine. Right? Let's go look at Mookie Betts' numbers. I would imagine this is the worst year of his entire career. He had 10 at-bats that year. Wait, what? These aren't... Oh, is this postseason? Yeah, postseason. We'll go regular season. So he hit 258 this year, 289 the year prior, 307, 269, 264 with an OPS. I mean, yeah, look, 732 OPS this year. That's by far the lowest of his career. So this narrative of like Mookie's having the toughest year of his career, this Dodgers offense and team is so good that come time for October is really like you can have guys carry throughout the year, but you just need Mookie to be firing on all cylinders come playoff time, and he has been doing just that. Hitting, let's go back. Hitting 385 with over 1,000 OPS. Thanks for the live chat. Love it. Thank you, Don. Thanks for being here. Thanks for chatting. Thanks for hanging out. Thank all of you guys for hanging out. This is a lot of fun. I could talk baseball all day long to anybody that'll ever listen, and I love doing that. Max Muncy's been rolling as well. Kike Hernandez, just the ultimate playoff riser for this team, has been insane. So this is, look, 2 of their 3 MVPs are down here with a 637 and a 603 OPS. If you were to show me this and say they've been through 6 games, did they advance to the NLCS or not? They had to go through the Phillies. If you were to show me Freddie Freeman and Shohei Ohtani's OPS, I would say probably not. I mean, 2 of the 3 MVPs in that lineup with below a 650 OPS, they probably didn't advance past the Phillies. That's how good the starting pitching has been. On the Brewers side of things, let's talk Brewers, because this team is the #1 seed for a reason. The Brewers will win this series if they get into the Dodgers bullpen before the 6th inning more often than not. We just showed all of those numbers. We just showed how bad the Dodgers bullpen has been. That's the weakness, right? If you allow the starters of the Dodgers to get depth to then hand it to Roki in some form or fashion, you're going to lose. But if you make them fill in and get 12 outs as opposed to 6 outs, you have a really good chance of winning this series. I really do believe that. This is a David versus Goliath matchup in the public eyes, and I get that. But let's not forget that this is the #1 seed in baseball. They swept them in the regular season. Their starters are fantastic. Andrew Vaughn has been good for them in October. I questioned the pickup was great for a while at the beginning, right? Andrew Vaughn, that was really their only offensive addition. And then he came back to earth a little bit and it was like, why did you leave this team in the position you did and didn't add enough offense? Well, Andrew Vaughn has been huge for them. Obviously, the homer in Game 5 against the Cubs, 3 solo homers win you that game, along with your dominant starting pitching. Bryce Turang with that huge homer to get off the schneid and kind of end his slump. So this Brewers team is legit. Team hitting wise, they are tied for, that's in home runs. Let's look at average. 250 average in the postseason. 753 OPS. Pitching wise, this is where they dominate. The Milwaukee Brewers team pitching was fantastic over the course of the regular season. Let's look at regular season numbers. Team pitching in the regular season, Milwaukee Brewers, that's strikeouts. Let's look at team ERA. Milwaukee Brewers, the best in the National League at a 3.58 ERA. Let's take a look in at the chat real quick. Secret weapon equals you savage. I don't know how secret it is anymore, but I agree. Dodgers are a wild card team. Yeah, the only one remaining. Isn't that funny? Gone now is the narrative of the bye in the first round. It's been that way since this new playoff format, like 4 years at this point. Oh, the first round bye really messes with teams. Well, 3 of these final 4 teams had a bye in the first round, and that other team is the Los Angeles Dodgers. This Brewers team does everything well. Everything. They play good defense. They play a sound defense. They score. They pitch. They have a good back end of the bullpen in McGill and Abner Uribe. They have maybe the best manager in baseball in Pat Murphy. They are a complete package. So they don't have the star power that the Los Angeles Dodgers have, no matter how you look at it. They do not have the star power that the Dodgers have. But they are a complete team and they do everything well. And I don't like the narrative with this team of it's a small ball team. Look, just because they're fundamentally sound does not mean they're a small ball team. They actually did not bunt a lot at all this year. They just do everything well and they do everything sound. So we're talking about a team that does everything well but doesn't have the star power against a team that does have the star power. It's going to be, this is an awesome matchup. Blue Jays, Brewers World Series final. Wow, we shall see about that. The Dodgers will win the NLCS if their stars continue to shine. And it's an easy thing to say, but when you look at it, their stars are Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and then Yamamoto, Glasnow, Snell. Like those, you have 3 in the rotation, 3 in the offense. I guess 4 in the rotation if you throw Shohei in there too. So if the stars show up, I think the Dodgers win this series. I've been hesitant. I've been wrong already once. I've been hesitant about this Brewers team in October, and I think I was wrong there. The Brewers proved me wrong in the first round. They looked fantastic. They scored enough runs. They pitched well. Mizorowski was incredible. If Jacob Mizorowski can continue to be as good as he was, they're going to be a problem. The Brewers are a problem. They're the #1 seed for a reason. But this matchup, man, oh man. These are 2 awesome matchups. We have 3 teams that had a first round bye, and the Los Angeles Dodgers are that 4th team. The narratives everywhere you look with these teams. The Seattle-Toronto narrative with Canada being, not far from Seattle and a lot of Blue Jays fans living close to Seattle. There's that narrative. There's the MVP candidate in Cal Raleigh. There's Vladdy Jr., who's turned up another level. There's Shohei Ohtani. There's great pitching in Mizorowski and Freddie Peralta and Abner Uribe. I love these final 4 teams remaining. I love the matchups we got. Let me see, before we wrap up here, let me see your World Series predictions. Give me the 2 teams that advance, so the 2 teams in the World Series, and who the winner ultimately is. Let me see it. It's easy to doubt the Brewers because of their postseason history, yet they just keep proving people wrong this year. Exactly, Rebecca. It's not, for me, it's not. It's the lack of experience, the lack of like getting it done in October. But Pat Murphy is like, he's got his touch on this team, and he hadn't been there through the majority of the postseason struggles. I do think he's the best manager in baseball, and what he's doing with this team has been incredible. They do have studs. They just do everything well. So I'm excited to watch that series. Again, 6-0 against the Dodgers this year. That's not nothing. How much does it mean? Not a lot. But like, they do feel comfortable. They have faced the starters. So we'll see. Mariners versus Dodgers. Dodgers World Series champs. 4-1. So that series goes 5. Brew Crew in 6 versus the Blue Jays. Blue Jays versus Brewers. 7 home games for the Blue Jays. Nah, Seattle's gonna be awesome for the Mariners. Brewers versus Jays, but would prefer Seattle, and it will be close. But I really think the Brewers can pull off their first World Series championship. Isn't that also cool? We have 2 of the final 4 teams have never won a World Series. The Blue Jays haven't won one since 1993, and the Dodgers could be the first team to go back-to-back since 2001. A lot of cool narratives wherever you look. And it all starts here tonight, 8:03 p.m. Eastern Time. What does that mean? It's 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock on the East Coast. So 4 hours. We are 4 hours away from first pitch of the ALCS in Toronto. Bryce Miller against Kevin Gausman. It's going to be awesome. This series is going to... 2 incredible environments, by the way. Toronto is going to be awesome. Seattle's going to be awesome. Experience will lead the Dodgers. The experience is going to play a huge, huge factor in that series. It's a juggernaut Dodgers team. There's no way around that. Pair that with inexperience of the Brewers. It's a tall, tall task. Jordan, what is your prediction? So in the American League side of things, I'm going to ride with my prediction to get to the World Series. Give me the Seattle Mariners on the American League side of things. And in the National League, I'm going to say the Dodgers. I'm going to say the Dodgers beat the Brewers in 6 games. And then that leaves Dodgers-Mariners World Series. Whew! I love that. I love that. Give me the Mariners to win it all. That pitching staff, the offense was shut down by a really good Detroit Tigers pitching staff and Tarek Skubal. I do like the offensive additions they've added. Give me the Seattle Mariners to beat the Blue Jays and then win the World Series. And what a story that would be. First ever World Series appearance and then first ever World Series championship. Good question, Jordan. Thank you. Is the Dome open today? Have not yet seen if the Dome is open or closed. Again, that's an MLB decision, by the way. In the playoffs, Major League Baseball makes those decisions. The team does not. I'm imagining the Blue Jays would want the Dome closed. I know for many years in Houston, like they would always want it closed because it's louder. But it is an MLB decision at the end of the day. So we'll see if it's open or closed. I don't yet know. Thank you guys. This has been a lot of fun. This has been a fun show today. Enjoy the CS matchups. We will do this again soon. I will be at the World Series, so I believe the World Series preview live stream will be from somewhere, either Seattle, Toronto, Milwaukee, or Los Angeles. We'll see where it ends up. Thank you all for watching today. This has been a lot of fun. I love doing these live streams. This is awesome. I love talking to you guys. I love having this live stream to do with you guys and preview and hear your questions and hear your thoughts. And it's awesome. First ever World Series with back-to-back. First ever World Series versus back-to-back World Series. That's the narrative. How cool would that be? I appreciate you all. Thank you all. 4 hours from right now, we will be getting first pitch of the ALCS. And then tomorrow, on Monday, we will get both games. The Blue Jays and Mariners will play at 5:03 Eastern Time, and then Dodgers Brewers will be at 8:08 p.m. Eastern Time. Enjoy this all. Don, thanks, Ben, my first live stream. I appreciate you. Thanks for hopping in here. We'll do this a couple more times this year. This is still a couple to do. So I appreciate you all for being here. Enjoy the ALCS tonight and the NLCS tomorrow, and we'll see you soon. This has been awesome, guys. Thank you. See ya.